Okay, so let's begin today's workshop. So welcome and thank you for your time today. Probably the busiest time of the semester, if not the whole year. So my name is Eric Chow, and I'm the Resource Support Manager at the library. With me today also is Rebecca Wong, the head of digital initiative and research cluster. So I will actually be doing most of the demo, and Rebecca will be helping to answer any questions that you may have in the chat box. Okay, so if you have anything you would like to ask throughout the demo, while I will be busy doing the demo, please ask it on the chat box. So today, most of the time, I'll be doing hands-on demo about how to use the publication module. If you happen to have a computer next to you, please fire it up and follow along if you can. If not, I will highlight some web links for you so that later on, when you have time to use the system, you can follow along yourself. Okay. So what are the learning outcomes for today's workshop? So by the end of this workshop, you should be able to create and modify your own research output records on IRIMS. You should be able to edit your unique researcher profile, and you should also be able to create a personal CV that reflects your academic track records. Okay. Now, before I actually begin, I'd like you to take a look at this. Okay. Get your phone out, take the QR code, or take a photo of this. Okay, in fact, I'm going to copy and paste the URL of this. This is the IRIMS user guide that was put together by the library. So most of the things that I will be talking about today will actually be on the IRIMS user guide. Okay, so even if you forget, most of the things I talked about today, do remember this guide and then go back to it for reference. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste this link for you on the chat box. Okay, so let's just take a look at what this guide looks like. Okay, so this is the guide, and you can see it's actually quite user-friendly. On the left are the menu, and the right are the contents. So what is the IRIMS? Okay, so some of you may have already started using it or seen it or heard about it before. So IRIMS stands for the Integrated Research Information and Management System. Okay, and essentially it has 3 modules. So the first module is called the Grant Management module. The second module is the Publication module, which is the focus of today's workshop. And the third module is the Research Portal, which is open to public. Okay. Now, for the grant management module, it is managed by the research office. So if you have problem using that, or if you would like to find out how to use that, I believe research office is also having some training workshops just like this one here. So you can sign up for that. Okay. For the publication backend, we'll talk about today. Now, both grant management and the publication backend, they are protected by the SSO ID. So that means you need to log in to use it. Okay. While the research portal is open to public. So let's take a look at what the research portal looks like first. Okay. Now, the official website for the research portal is scholars.hkbu.edu.hk. Okay. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so now we may internally in HKBU, we may sometimes refer to this as the IRIMS. Okay, but the official name for this website is actually HKBU Scholars. Okay, so you hear that 2 words like interchangeably sometimes. Okay, so let's take a look at the homepage. So there's a search bar, just like Google search bar, which we can search for anything from, a professor name, a publication, a journal article name, title. We have, or even project names, grant project's name. It can be searched here. I'll actually demo it in a minute. Below it, there is numerical highlights of our HKBU research efforts. We have about 22,000 research output currently in the database. We also have about 800 scholars at HKBU who have a public profile here, which I'll show you in a minute. There are other summaries like grants, projects, etc. Now, students will also be able to upload their student thesis here as well. Okay. Some textual description about the site, and also a map showing the kind of collaboration that HKBU has with the rest of the world. Now here, this system actually has something called a fingerprint technology that basically goes through all the publication text and try to highlight some major research area at HKBU. Okay, so I'll explain a little bit more about fingerprint later, but you will see this kind of like keywords like quite regularly in the system. Okay, so let's take a look at what does this page or this website looks like inside. So let's, for example, someone who is interested to learn more about one of our faculty member. Her name is Professor Kara Chan from the communication department. Okay, so this search result brings up Kara's profile. Okay, and also has a list of research publication output from Kara. Also the citation scores on the right-hand side for each article. Okay, grants and projects which Kara has applied for and working on. Activities such as being speaker at public lectures or conferences. Also student thesis, so in which Kara is a supervisor. Okay. So it gives a summary of Kara's work. Now, if we click into Kara's profile, you see that the public is also able to see her title, which department she's from, and her contact information, whether she's accepting PhD students, what kind of PhD project is she interested to engage in. We'll also give some numerical summary of her work, her qualifications, again, the fingerprint technology. So again, the system trying to find out what is the major research area which Kara is engaged in, and using their big data technology. Okay. Also, it shows the kind of network that Kara has with the rest of the world in her research effort. Some projects that she is going through, that she has been working on, and of course the research output, which actually today I'll show you how to input these publication records in the database. So if we click on any one of them, you'll see this title, there's the authors, abstracts, and any links or files which is associated with this publication record. Again, the fingerprints of this particular research output record, and the citation styles, which people can use to cite this article. Okay. All right, so this gives you a kind of like a taste of what this IRIMS looks like, the HKBU scholars. Now, actually, HKBU is not the only university who is having this kind of system. In fact, if we look at Pure, okay, so this Elsevier is the company that make this system. Okay, so this product is called Pure. Now, if we look at who is the client of Pure in Hong Kong, you will see that in addition to Baptist U, we also have Education University, Lingnan U, Poly U, and City U. Okay, if we click into Poly U, you'll see that the user interface looks very similar, right? Okay, so you also have the map, the numerical highlights, etc. And if you look at Education U, also very similar. In fact, the color scheme is also similar to us. Okay, so you can see that actually other universities also having similar similar system in place as us. Okay, so I guess the question for you, for some of you, may be, well, why is it that I need to, have a profile and update my publication record in IRIMS? Okay, so let me give you two reasons. Why bother? Okay, well, obviously, as you have seen, we have a public portal, and also our sister universities also have public portals like this. So maintaining your publication record accurate and up to date would help uphold the university as well as your own professional image. Okay, so that's the first reason. Now, the second reason that is more relevant to your day-to-day work is the IRIMS system will actually become the single source of truth to facilitate things like your performance review and future reporting exercises like the RGC report submission or the research assessment exercise. Okay, so from now on, in your next performance review, your supervisor or your head of department or your boss, they will actually be pulling out data from the IRIMS system to go through your performance review. So if you do have your publication record accurate and up to date, then your performance review will be, of course, more comprehensive, right? And also, if any of you has been through the RAE exercise, you know that everyone has been very busy in trying to get a lot of different data information from different sources, grant proposals, publication records, and pull it together and then submit it to the government. So now, if you actually start keeping your publication record up to date now, it's actually going to make it easier for the next RAE exercise. Okay, so I hope this is the two reasons that that is quite convincing enough to convince you that you should keep your publication record accurate and up to date. Okay, so now who can actually use this IRIMS system to add contents in here? So if I go back to the IRIMS user guide, you can see on the left who can add. Okay, so everyone actually who is employed by HKBU can add things in there, but there's actually a fine distinction. University officers such as president, vice chancellor, provost, VP, etc., as well as teaching staff who are full-time employed by HKBU, they can add stuff to the IRIMS system. Moreover, they also have their own profile page, just like Professor Carrie Chan's profile page we saw before. Now, if you're a part-time teaching staff, or if you're a research staff like a research assistant, or you're a non-teaching staff like myself, I'm an administrative staff at the library, or postgraduate students, now they can all add contents in there. However, they do not have a profile page. Okay, so I suspect most of you here in the audience today are full-time teaching staff, professors, and so you will have a profile page. Okay. Okay, so let's now go to the live demonstration on how do we actually use the system to add things in there. Okay. Oh, actually, before that, I would also like you to look at what kind of things that you can add into the system. Okay, so what content can I add? So today I'll actually be going through the journal article. Okay, now of course you can see there are actually many things that you can add in here. Okay, now I cannot go through them one by one, but try to look for whatever it is that you want to add inside here. Okay, so that you don't have to go to the IRIMS system and keep clicking on different pages. So there's a summary of this in here. Also, if you scroll below, there are also other things like research output that are non-textual. If it's not a journal paper, then if it is, let's say, an exhibition, then you can actually also input it as well as a research output. Okay, I'll show you where to click those links in a second, but I will only be demonstrating the first one, which is a journal article. Okay, so now let's look at how do we input this research output record. All right, so it's going to be HKB, sorry, the URL is scholars. Okay, so actually it's scholars. Okay, so the URL is the same as before, except you add admin behind it. Okay, so you add admin behind it. Okay, so of course, because it's protected by the SSO ID, so I need to log in. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Now, you may actually see something different. Let me just really quickly go to another. Sorry, I should have opened this before. Okay, just hang on a minute. So when you log into the backend, you should see something like this. Okay, as a faculty member, you have a profile page. Okay, and you should see something like the numerical summary of your citation scores, summary of all your projects, activities, grants, and research network. So this is interesting. So this is one U in the middle, and all the relationship with all your publications, with external organizations, etc., are all here. Okay. So you should see something like this. Okay. Now, the reason why you saw when I logged in was something like this is because I'm actually an administrative user from the library. So that's why I see this screen. But you should see something like this. Okay. So to add a publication record, you just have to press on the Add Content button here. Okay. Now, for the demonstration purpose, I'm going to actually go to my own profile and add it. Okay. Now you should see something like this. Okay. And you have a lot of options. So just focus on the left-hand side. And of course, today is about research output. So click on this first tab. Now here you see there are several options, right? Remember, I showed you on the IRIMS user guide, there are things that are non-textual form, as well as like journal articles, book reports, etc. Now, before you actually click in each of them to find out what is that you need to do, you can add. I strongly suggest you to look on the left-hand side first to look for this candidates in Scopus. Okay, you click on that. Okay, actually, IRIMS, the system, periodically goes to the Scopus citations database and look for articles that are published under your name, okay? And then they will try to match it with the one from HKBU. And when it finds that actually there's something in Scopus, but it's not in HKBU system, it will actually tells you right here, like this, saying, oh, there's actually a candidate suitable for importing into HKBU system. Okay, from Scopus. Now, this is very convenient and also very useful because if you press import and then start from there, a lot of the information would already be input for you. Okay, so you don't have to type everything from scratch. Okay, like if you actually start from the top. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works. I press on import. So I actually happen to have one paper which I published back in 2016, okay, when I was working at Hong Kong Poly U, and I was the third author, okay. Now, so when I press import, it will show me the people, okay, involved as the author. I don't need to worry about this because next screen, I will also be working on the author list. So just click on import and review. And this will be the form that you need to fill in for the publication record, okay? So, if you create some publication record from scratch at the beginning, then all these fields would be empty and you need to do a lot of typing. But for this one, it's quite simple because a lot of the information are already imported for you, okay? So I'm going to spend a little bit of time going through this form, okay? So as you can see, it's not short, okay? So it's quite a bit of information, although a lot of them are self-explanatory. So I'll still go through them each one by one and trying to guide you to the more important information that you should pay attention to. Okay, so let's start from the top. Peer review. So that's quite obvious whether the article is a peer review article or not. Notice that there are sometimes a red star, meaning that that particular item you have to select something is mandatory field. Okay, so moving on. Publication status. So for my paper, it was already published in 2016. So it was in the status of published. So if you click on here, now there are other options here. For example, submitted, okay, or accepted in press, okay. Now, of course, we strongly recommend that you choose published if it is already published. But let's say you have some publication record that you want to input into the system and not for the public to see yet, but only for your performance review so that your supervisor can actually pull it up and see, oh, so you have a certain amount of paper that is in preparation or has been submitted, but no response yet from the publisher. Okay, you want to do that for as your own housekeeping purpose, then you can choose other status here. Okay. However, notice that it's only if you choose published that this publication record will be visible to the public in the public portal. Okay, so if you set it to other states, other status, the public will not be able to see it. Okay. All right, so other things, publication information. So language, title, subtitle, these are very obvious. I don't think I need to describe them too much. Abstract, page number, number of pages, etc. Okay, so this is quite straightforward. Contributors and affiliation. Okay, so I was the third author, so that's why I'm third in the list. So of course, for you, you're by default, it should have your name on in there as a first author, or unless if you're importing it like in my case where you are third author, that it will be like this. But of course, you can also do certain editing. For example, you can move the names around like this so that you can reorder the name. Okay, or if you have a co-authoring this paper with other people, you can also add person. So for instance, I want to add another person. Perhaps Kara Chan was one of the co-author. I can just search for Kara's name, and whenever there are search result comes up, always use the search result. Okay, so click on this search result, and then it will input all the associated information for you, so you don't have to do a lot of typing. Okay, and once you're okay, then press create. Or if you happen to be working with someone who are not from HKBU, you can press on add person, and then you click on create external person. Okay, so some people who are external from HKBU, let's say it is John Chan, and he's an author, and he's an external person, and he's from Hong Kong. Okay, and you can also add an organizational unit. For example, he's from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. So again, even for external organization, you can also click on search and then click on the links. Okay, and once you're okay, then you press create. And then you have John Chan, the fourth person, okay? Or I can delete it if I want by pressing on the minus sign, okay? So that's the contributors and all affiliations. Okay, moving on, publication managed by. So basically this is for you guys, because you are from the School of Chinese Medicine, it should be by default the School of Chinese Medicine. But if you also belong to other research center, you can also input it in here. But notice that this should be your primary affiliated department, okay? Because this is going to be the department or the unit that will approve this particular research output record before it goes to the public. Now, I would actually talk a little bit more about approval process at the end of this form, okay? So just keep this in mind for now. And if you're not sure who actually approved your publication record, please check with the department or the school, okay? Okay, so moving on, journal. So this one already has a journal name because it's imported from another, from the Scopus database, but of course we can click on change journal and then search for a journal. Let's say Chinese medicine. So maybe there's a Chinese medical journal. You can search here and then input, okay? And then click. So that you don't have to type in the ISSN and all those other, information, okay? Now, after choosing the journal, of course, type in the volume and issue number as well. Now, sometimes when you're going through this process, just like I am right now, when you're importing the data from other sources, so we found that actually sometimes the volume and issue numbers are not available, okay? So, and they just cannot import it properly. So please pay attention to these two fields. If they are empty, please fill it back in, okay? Especially when you're importing something in here. Now, below this is called the open access guidance. So this is basically the open access policy for this particular journal, okay? Now, open access is an important topic, but it's beyond the scope of this workshop. So I'm not going to talk about this, except I'll make a few comments later on. But for now, I would like you to take a look at, if you're not familiar with open access, you can take a look at the Scholarly Communication Guide by HKBU library. Okay, so you can see that on the left, there's an open access page, and you can take a look here to read all about open access. So in fact, I'll copy this link now onto the chat room. Okay, so you can bookmark it. Okay, so let's go back to, okay, so open access guidance, basically this is the open access policy for this journal. You can click on each of them to take a look. So for example, this one for the submitted version, the open access policy is it does not allow open access. Okay, so you can read through them for your own information. Moving on, so there's nothing you need to fill in here. It's just purely informational. So for the next one, it's about electronic versions and related files. Now here, in compliance with the RGC open access policies, you have to upload either the published version, okay, or if the publisher allows it, if the open access policy allows it, or the accepted manuscript, or what we call sometimes called the post-print version, okay? So you can actually upload it. This is the place where you upload that PDF file, okay, by clicking on here. And then you click on the upload an electronic version, and then you can upload that PDF file. Now, of course, you should also input the DOI if it is available. And also, if the article is available on your publisher's website and you would like to make a link to it, you can also do so here, okay? Other links. So if there are other links that are relevant to this particular research record and you would like to enter, you can add the link in here as well. You can also add other files that are related to this particular publication record. So for instance, we have colleagues from AVA or from the Faculty of Arts who sometimes may be doing research output, or part of the research output is exhibitions or some sort of imagery design, etc. So they may actually input something like here. Now, I also know that some of you from the Chinese School of Chinese Medicine, you may have something like, for example, videos, video recordings of some certain Chinese treatment as part of your research output. That may be the case. So we actually do not recommend you to add large video files onto IRIMS here, because first of all, we don't have a lot of space. Second of all, it may actually take a long time to upload. So if you do have video files like this, we suggest you upload it to other platforms, like, for example, YouTube or Vimeo, or we actually, HKBU Library also has other streaming platforms like HKBU Heritage or HKBU Tube. If you feel that your video is eligible to be uploaded on this platform, you can contact us. After you upload them, then you just provide the link here, okay? So this is all what I want to say about the files. Okay, so next is about data analysis, categorization for data analysis, okay? Now, this here is really for helping the university administration to generate reports in submission to RGC. So these include things like CDCF research output categories. So CDCF is the common data collection format required by the RGC. Okay, now you may actually recognize some of these terms here, which you need to input this kind of information in the B-Uniport system under the research and grant output tab. Okay, but from now on, you'll input this information here, okay, related to your publication record. Okay, so moving on, so OA routes and status. So again, open access is something that's beyond the scope of this training, but what I can tell you is you can associate or tell IRIMS what kind of Go OA path do you have for this particular paper. For example, you have Gold OA or Green OA, okay? So Green OA basically means that you have a self-archiving version of your paper you can upload into IRIMS, making it freely accessible for everyone. Gold OA means that you make the final version of your article freely and permanently accessible for everyone immediately after your publication. Okay, so just indicate what which category it falls into. Again, I'm not going to talk about the detail here, so you can refer to our scholarly communication guide about gold OA and green OA. Again, KT activity, that's knowledge transfer activity. If you're not sure whether your research output is part of KT activity, please check with the KTO, a knowledge transfer office or research office. For here, all you need to do is input whether it is yes or no a KT activity. Okay, moving on. We have the subject area, Scopus subject area. So in Scopus, in the citation database, it already has a lot of predefined subject area. So you can add it here. For example, not sure if Chinese medicine is here, but we can try to do a search. Okay, I'm not sure, but you can actually browse through this whole list and take a look at whether your particular niche or your particular research area is here, and then choose the appropriate one. Okay. Now, of course, this is already defined by Scopus or by this database. Now, if you feel that these keywords or none of them of the keywords accurately describe your research area, you can actually have the chance to input your own user-defined keywords here. Okay, just a section below. So, for example, the research that I was doing is about Asian body size. In particular, there's a special term for body size, and that's called anthropometry. Okay, so if I actually want to correctly label my research, I think this would be more accurate to use the user-defined keyword here to define or to label my research. Now, notice that actually for these two sessions, for the subject area and the user-defined keyword, if you actually label them correctly and label them accurately, it will actually help other people to discover your work more easily in the public portal. Okay, so these two areas actually makes your work more discoverable in IRIMS. Okay, so please pay attention to this when you're going through these two sessions here. Okay, so RGC requirements. So again, this is more for university reporting purpose. So there is a bibliographical notes, APC. This is especially relevant to the open access policy. So you have to pay some sort of an article processing charge if you're going for the different OA routes. And so you should specify, as required by the RGC, the amount you pay for the APC, a source of payment, the iExpense report in which you use to make that APC payment, the copyright terms and conditions you have with the publisher, etc. So try to fill in this information as much as you can, because this will actually help facilitate the reporting process to RGC much better in the future. Okay. Okay, moving on. Events. Please just ignore this because it's not supposed to be here. In fact, we're asking our vendor to try to get rid of this button. So just ignore this button here. On the other hand, relations, this is something that you should pay attention to, especially projects. So basically, this is, you can add a relation between different things inside the database. So let's say, for example, you create, in the system, you've already created in the research grant module, you've already created a project or research grant, okay? And what you want to do is you want to link your publication record, okay, to the research grant which funded the publication of this paper. Okay, so by pressing onto this add button here. So for example, let's see if we have anything from Chinese medicine today. Medicine, yeah. So let's say, for example, if you are happen to be working on this particular Chinese medicine and smart living under the ITC, this is one of the grant that you successfully got from the government, which is already created in the system. You can add a relation to that. Okay, so you can link this publication record to that particular project. Now, we strongly suggest you to add as much as you can on here for all your publication record, because at the end of the day, when we are doing our next research assessment exercises, this is going to help a lot in terms of creating the report and submit to the RGC. remember in the recent RGC, the research assessment exercise, everyone was, really busy just collating different information from different sources, and then, submitting it into one document or into a bunch of documents. So if you actually start doing this kind of relationship now, the next round of our research assessment exercise is going to make everyone's life much easier. Okay, so we strongly suggest that you add this link to projects for your publication. Now, of course, you can also do things like adding link to press and media coverage, or prizes that you may have won in competitions or conferences, etc. Okay. Okay, so we're almost done. So the visibility. Okay, so this is talking about the visibility of this particular research output record, not just about your PDF file. Okay, so this visibility is about your publication record. Now, of course, we strongly suggest you set it to public. Okay, so that people are able to see, the good work from our HKBU colleagues. But as I said before, you may be using the system as some sort of housekeeping purpose, in which case you will select something other than public. Now, it's not shown on the screen here, but you should also have that option called confidential. So you can choose confidential if you want, and then so you can still have this publication record only available to you and also your supervisor when they're doing a performance review. They can pull out this information for the performance review, and of course you can view it yourself as well, but the public won't be able to see it. Okay, so in that case, then you choose confidential. Finally, there's an external publication ID. You don't need to worry about this. If it is blank, just leave it blank. But if there's already some number in here, that's because we're importing it from other database. So it has this like ID, but don't worry too much about this. Okay, so when we're done, so this is basically the whole form. When we're done, you go to the very bottom, okay, and you choose. Now, of course, if you're halfway through finish and you want to finish it later on, you can choose entry in progress and then press save. So next time you come in, you can keep on editing or adding things. But let's say you're done, you can click on for approval and then press save. Okay, so once you press on approval and press save, then this publication record will be sent to the next person or the next stakeholder in the workflow, which is going to be the managing organization, which you've set at the beginning of the form. So that's going to be the department which approve, okay, this publication record, so that it can go to the public portal. Okay, so there has to be some sort of approval process that this goes through. Now, after being approved, the record will actually also come back to the library, where we will actually do some validation for you in terms of things like journal information, open access policy. We'll check these for you. And once that's validated, then it will get pushed to the public portal. So the reason why I'm telling you about this process is because I want you to know that even if you press save, you still have to wait a little bit longer before you see it in the public portal, because you still need your department to approve it. You still need to wait for the library to validate it. Okay. Okay, so that's for the research publication record. Now, I know I've been through a lot of information, so I'm going to show you in the IRIMS user guide. Okay, if you go to the left-hand side here, submission forms. Even if you forgot most of what I talked about in the past 10 minutes, you can actually take a look at this, and it shows you all the detail of what I talked about. Okay, so you can see, publication status, file uploading policies, relations, right? So all this, like managing organizational unit. Okay, so all these are here. So even if you forgot, don't worry. So come back to this IRIMS user guide when you're using it. Just use this as a good reference. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to now move on to the second objective. Now, again, if you have questions, just type it in the chat box and Rebecca will answer for you. Okay, now I'm going to go to the second thing to show you, which is the profile. Okay, so again, remember you should, because if you are a full-time faculty member at HKBU, you should be able to see something like this when you log into the IRIMS admin. So thanks to Professor Kara Chan, she gave me permission to kind of use her dummy profile as a demonstration. Okay, so on how you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to be using Kara's profile to demonstrate for the next 20 minutes. So if I go to my profile, I look at the left-hand side, there should be my photo, or if you don't have a photo yet, there should be some sort of like a little stick figure. Click on Edit Profile. Okay, and you should be able to see a form, okay, where it shows your names, your title, and things like that. Okay, now this information were already synchronized or were imported from the from HKBU Human Resources Office. Okay, so the HR office has given us all this information to be put in here. So if you find that there's some discrepancy or some errors in your names, that was because of HR Human Resource Office made a mistake or something, then you can click on Edit and then edit your name here. And then press Update, of course. Okay. So this little arrow here indicates that this record was imported from HRO. So of course, there are other things like the title, your ORCID ID, if you do have one. So this is where you upload your profile photo. Okay, so we strongly suggest everyone upload a photo here because it will make your profile look more professional. If you happen to have other links like you have a profile page on your department website, or if you have a LinkedIn profile, let's say, then you can add a link here. So moving on, you have a Chinese name, which you can edit. And you can also edit your biography, research interests, organizational affiliation. So if you have worked in multiple or different departments before or other universities before, this will show up here. But always now, because Kara has worked here for a long time, so that's why it has a long list here. But of course, you can always set one that is set primary as your primary affiliation right now. Okay. Leave of absence, I'm not sure what exactly that is good for, so don't worry about this if you don't put anything here. You can also add things like the position outside institutions. Say if you're on a panel member for a certain committee, then you can input it here. Education and qualification, if you have other qualification, professional qualification, which is relevant to your work, you can add it here as well. Okay, so categorization for data analysis. Again, this is something that is similar to what we saw in the publication record, which is for really for university report generation purpose. So try to fill in this information as much as you can. If you're involved in any of the United Nations SDG Sustainable Development Goals, you can also input it here as well. You can also indicate on your profile whether you like to take your, whether you're willing to take PhD students and what are the research projects that you have in mind. And finally, the visibility of this record. Of course, we would like you to always set your record to public so that everyone from the outside world will be able to see all of our HKBU researcher. Okay. And again, external source ID, don't worry about this. If it's empty or if it already has a number in there, just don't worry about this. Okay. So that's for the profile. Okay, so you can see that you can edit things and just go through them and see how accurate they are and edit them as you need. Now, on the left-hand menu, I would also like you to take a look at this here called the fingerprints. Now, remember when we were looking at Kara's profile, we saw that there was this like a session called fingerprints. Okay, so basically it uses big data technology to captures what kind of research area among your publications does it think that you are engaged in. For example, if for Kara, this is her research a lot is about television advertising or social comparison or young consumers. So it will be all here. Now, however, if you feel that there are certain ones that you think is not useful, that you think does not really accurately label you as a researcher, you can always get rid of it. You can just move your mouse over and then press the cross. And then it will remove the word Hong Kong from this set of fingerprints. Okay. Now, if you feel that you don't actually want anything to show up in the fingerprint session, you can just click on the off here, and then it will turn the whole session off. Okay. So that was turning off the business and economics session. I can also turn off the social science session as well. And of course, for you, there will be other sessions relevant to, for example, Chinese medicine. Okay. Okay, so that's the two items I want you to pay attention to. So it's fingerprints or metadata. So that was the one I showed you at the beginning. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to now go to the final part, which is about CV. Okay, so how do you create your own CV or your curriculum vitae from IRIMS? So basically, you click on this little link here that's next to your profile image. Okay, you click on there. Now, this morning I already demoed to another group, so Karen already has a CV. So let me just erase this first, so I can show you from scratch. Okay, so again, I come here, the profile, because now I've deleted that CV, so now it just tells me to add one. I press on add, and then it will show me two paths. Okay, one is the private CV, and the other one is the public CV. So both of them actually are the same. So the workflow actually is the same, except at the very end, for the private CV, it will just tell you to download a PDF or download a Word document of your CV file. And for public CV, it will actually attach that PDF or that Word file onto your public profile so that people can actually download it if they want to do that. Okay. But for the purpose of demonstration, I'm just going to show you the private CV. Now, the IRIMS system already gives you, helps you a lot in terms of helping you to automatically generate a lot of items on your CV. So you can check all the things that are from your record that I want to list on the CV, okay, and press create. Okay, so as you can see, it creates the employment list, the research output. Okay, I forgot to actually click on the profile information. It should actually give you the photo and also the name as well. So let me just try that again. So if you click on your profile here, top two boxes, you should be able to see that. Press create. Yeah, so now you should be able to see your name, your contact information, your picture, etc. Okay, now let's say, for example, for Kara, because she has a lot of different papers, right? The list goes really long. Okay, now sometimes you may want to just create a 2-pager CV, for example. So what you can do is you can go to the left-hand side and press edit. And once you're here, you can go to filters, and I can limit my CV research output record to only 10 entries, let's say. Okay, and maybe I want to narrow it down so that it only contains articles, peer review articles, because they're the most meaningful. You can also set a range of dates. Let's say I want to only show publications that are between 2000 and 2021. Okay, and then once you're done, click OK at the bottom. So now you see the list is much shorter, right? It only shows the most recent 10. Now notice also that this is called a dynamic list, meaning that these information were populated dynamically from the system. Okay, so let's say now I look at the record, but it looks like there's something that I don't want to show. Let's say this record here. Okay, so it looks like a test record. Okay, it doesn't look good at all. So what can I do is I can press on edit again. Rather than having this as a dynamic list, I can scroll to the bottom and make this a static list. Okay, so I can click on make static. Okay, so once I click on make static, you can see that now the boxes, the list actually looks the same, but now we have more controls here on the right. So for instance, here, I don't like this test record. I can actually go to the test record, go to the right-hand side and delete it by pressing on that cross. I can also reorder some of this paper if I want to, like click on the down arrow, and then we'll move that paper down. So you can even change the order of your records here manually. Okay, now this kind of static list or editing applies for different things. Like for example, your activities, you can also do that as well. Okay, so the concept is very similar, so I won't do it again. Okay, so I'll let you try it out yourself. Okay, now finally, grants, similarly, you have a list. Okay, so finally, when you are done, okay, actually, I'm going to show you one more trick. If you go to the bottom add session, there's one very useful thing that you can add, and that's called a periodic list. Okay, let's say, for example, I have some information that that I've done in 2021, maybe some volunteer experience, or even if I have supervised certain PhD students in 2021 or 2020, you can actually make a list like this. You press on edit. Okay, and you can add whatever text you want here. Let's say I have supervised 5 PhD students in 2021. Then you can put something like that in here, and it's perfectly fine. Okay, and of course, you don't have to put so many years. You can delete some of them like this. Okay. All right, so once you've finished with making this CV, making it all look really good, then go to the very bottom and you can choose download it as a PDF or download it as a Word document. Okay. And of course, once you click on it, then it will download it to your computer. Now, of course, I can also save this so that next time when I come into IRIMS again, I don't have to redo the list again. This copy of the CV is already in my account and I can open it up anytime I want. So I'm going to show you. So let's say I save it. Okay, so now you see that now next to your profile photo, there's a curricular vitae bracket 1, meaning you've saved one CV. So if I want to access it again, I click on that and then click on this. And so you see this would be the CV which I've created just now. Okay. Okay, so that's the part about CV. So let me just quickly delete this. So if you want to delete this, you don't want this anymore, then you can click on the cross at the bottom. Now notice that actually you can create multiple CVs. Okay, so if you actually have more than one CV, okay, let's say you have a long one that is very comprehensive, and you also have a summary one, which is like a one-pager, you can save both of them here. You can save different versions of your own CV here. Okay, and this should be something that is very useful for your grant application. Okay, so that's the 3 things that I would like to demonstrate to you. Now, one little tips I want to also give you before we go. If you are a very busy faculty member and but you have money and you happen to have hired a research assistant to help you, you can actually delegate the task of updating or creating publication records to your students, okay, to your research assistants. So how do you do that? Well, you go to your name on the top right corner and you press on trusted user. So you can assign trusted users so that they can add or edit your publication record on your behalf. Let's say, for example, I want to add a trusted user and I happen to have a research assistant student called Edward. Okay, so let's say Edward John Sanderson is one of my RA. Okay, so I can actually click on this person name, okay, and then press OK, I think, at the end. Sorry, the Zoom is in the way here, so I can't see at the bottom. Yes, so there's a save button here. So press on save once you're done. Then you've assigned Edward as the trusted user. So next time Edward actually signs in to the system, he will be able to manage the publication records on your behalf. Okay. So just in case if you're lucky enough to have money and hire RA, then you can delegate these tasks for them. Okay, so that's it for the CV. So let me just now go back to my slides and just do a really quick recap. So I've done the live demonstration. Okay, so the recap. So you should be able to now create and modify your own research output records. You should also be able to edit your unique researcher profile, also create your personal CV that reflects your academic track records. And of course, if you don't have time to do that, then you can delegate a trusted user to do that for you. Okay. So that's the training for today. Thank you very much.